Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition. We're going to be previewing the English Premier League game week 2. And today, I have Charles and Gbenga is joining us as well. I'm a bit outnumbered by Chelsea fans today. I'm waiting on backup, but we'll see if we can make it through
Yeah,
this session.
that happen
You,
How are
at
you
points.
guys?
you go
Right.
collect.
all of a sudden, now that Chelsea is making waves in the transfer market and buying players, and you guys are looking strong, and you didn't collapse to Liverpool, you're feeling confident and showing your faces again. I like it. Welcome back.
Our
we
sugar
we
daddy
wait
is
for the
doing what he needs to do.
Mm, Debatable, judging by your absences on previous editions, but here we are. All right, so we have three main games that we're going to discuss this weekend. The City Newcastle game, which I think is the big one, right? We also what
yes.
Newcastle did to Villa last weekend, pretty much just dismantled, Villa's aspirations. There's also Spurs and United. So we've seen Angie and of course Man U won their game on Monday, and West Ham with Chelsea's £3 billion squad. Or how much is that squad worth these days?
Why didn't
It
you
doesn't really matter.
reference the? I know, right? Like, why are you
City's
quantifying,
City
the
reference
value of our
is
team?
oh my
It's a
Yeah,
figure. It's a figure worth mentioning. So
it
that's
is.
why I'm bringing that up.
it's just a number. Focus on the talent, okay?
All right, all right. I'll indulge you for now. All right. So City versus Newcastle. What are your takes on those games, Charles?
City versus Newcastle. You save that game for last because it's a big game, and it's so early
What?
for that game to me.
Yeah.
It sounds like a final. Uh, game. I think it's not gonna go as easy as it went for us against Aston Villa. Very very important. These guys are they're good at what they do. You understand? So they're probably gonna.
Hmm.
I expect to have more of the like they usually do. Control the game. So Newcastle to maybe focus on counters. Now the problem with City now have
Hmm.
KDB. We are not 100% how
Hmm.
it was set up. We're not sure who's gonna take the KDB's role. I know when the transfer happened and when it started, going to come into Gundogan's role. Kovacic kind of do what KDB does. It's what to find. You understand? Now, of course,
Hmm.
and he can tweak the whole system and an attacking midfield, holding midfield that he can sweep the whole John Stones in the midfield if he wants to. So for City, I don't see a formation and the personnel that will play. Newcastle, I think the same men that played against Aston Villa. Um, a very interesting game. So, but as for predictions, I think I'm still gonna give it a 2-1 for City.
Hmm. Okay, Benga, let's take your thoughts and then we'll come back to some things that I want us to discuss.
Yeah, I actually think it's a game for the two coaches. I don't think it's a game of the talents on the field. I think both sides have great talents, and I expect a lot of goals on both sides. And if I can, Pep is sometimes unpredictable. But my guess is that he's going to go with two attackers up front, right? And he's going to find a midfielder to distract the defense, of Newcastle,
Yes.
right? Someone that can hold the ball, someone that can pull other defenders so that he can free up the two attackers and they can move into empty spaces and do them damage. I expect Newcastle to come full force and attack, right? And that will be dependent on the defensive line of City at that point. Um, I think Newcastle have players that have a lot of pace that can really really kind of put any defender to test, right? I also expect them to kind of use leverage long balls because City tend to hold the ball a lot. So I don't think they would try to contend with them in the midfield. Right? They'll use, their flanks, use long balls, and with that, focus on counter attack and get as many goals as possible. So I wouldn't put my prediction on who is going to win, but most likely it could be City winning by a 1-goal margin, and at least I expect like 6 goals from both sides.
Okay. So I think Charles brought up an interesting point, right? That we don't know how City is going to line up. And I think last game when Kevin De Bruyne was forced off, right? We saw a switch, and he had started the game with, I believe it was Alvarez and Haaland together, right? So did that switch give us an inkling? And then again in the Super Cup yesterday, right? One thing that keeps, I would say, harping up at the back of my mind is City squad feels a bit light this summer, especially with Mahrez and Gundogan leaving. When I look at their bench, it just doesn't somehow feel that strong. Well, that aside, we know City is planning to reinforce. We've heard they've been linked with Mitoma. I think they were interested in Olise, but Olise has signed a new contract with Palace now. How do you guys think City's squad looks going into the season? Are they still the favorite? Is their first 11 good enough to overcome Newcastle in this game, or will Newcastle's similarly beefed up squad be enough to last over that 90 minutes and over the course of the season? What are your thoughts?
I think we're underestimating the bench because we've seen a lot of familiar faces who, of course, are great in the midfield. Look at what he's doing with Rodri, for instance, right? That is someone I would want us to pay attention to this season, right? I think Pep has a good succession plan. If it didn't, I don't think we'll let go of all those players. And I think it did that on purpose so that you cannot predict who is groomed, right? Or grooming for those open spots that you guys, are paying attention to. And that's an element of surprise for the opponent because now you don't know who is a dangerous man on the pitch. So with Alvarez and Haaland up front, even if they have a terrible midfield, right? Those guys are brilliant enough to be able to kind of still make things happen where possible. You see that Haaland is not is no longer your regular guy. He participates in the midfield as well, like to kind of get balls and things like that. And if you have such player who can also for ball, if the goals are not coming, they'll go straight to goal. So I wouldn't put anything past them. I wouldn't rate their bench right now because you have not seen them in action. So knowing what Guardiola is capable of doing, I think it would not be smart of any coach or anyone to kind of underestimate his bench.
Okay, Charles?
Yeah, I think
anything to add to that?
Words out of my mouth. Actually,
okay.
Like I said, we're underestimating the bench. I was going to say we're underestimating because I had a conversation with and we was injured. That's not fun. He said just because KDB is injured. Going back to him, that 90% of season and 61 the league. The strongest man is not KDB. City's stronger Aguero. Yep. Strongest man is Band. City's strongest. As long as Pep is coaching, he will find it. So regardless of George is on the bench, I think there's always a way to what they normally win to. There's always a way around. Going back to Gbenga's point, I think gonna go last left today because if so, I actually believe we all still January, so there's a way to that team to drag that team to buys one man to make. I'm convinced it takes to not just beat Newcastle.
Yeah. There was a season they won the league without a striker, right?
Yeah,
who does that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
For someone who has won 5 or 4 of 5, I don't buy it right now. I'll always buy that person. So yeah, KDB or not, bench
Good
or not,
point. Good points.
I think
There's still Pep. All right.
yeah.
So what you're saying is for someone else to win, we just need to get rid of Pep. Got it.
Now you
I'll find another Pep.
Okay. So
already
keys to the game.
found.
Where will this game be won and lost, Charles?
Oh, that's a good question. Mention the battle between Walker. I am very, very for
Okay.
that battle. Now, to answer your question, I think it's going to be on the midfield, which is the engine of the team, because of solid midfield, Bruno Guimaraes, and the
Yeah.
absence of KDB, I'm looking forward to see what Pep is going to do in the midfield. He can throw stones in the last few games at the end. I think that will be very important. But so, two questions. Well, two comments. One going to be one. I think is going to be midfield. If Pep doesn't fit that midfield, absolutely Newcastle may take it. If he does, then your hand. Where part to watch is going to be Vans versus Kyle Walker. Walker is player, all the fastest defender in the league. Avi Vans is pretty fast, pretty skillful. I would love to see him against Kyle Walker.
Okay.
So I don't think
Gbenga.
the game is gonna. I don't think the game is gonna be won in the midfield. I
Okay.
don't care how great Newcastle midfield is. They cannot, overshadow Pep's midfield. Right? That's never happened. Right? You win the battle of the midfield with it doesn't matter if KDB or no KDB. Pep's philosophy is about possession. Right? That philosophy has not changed. It is ingrained in all of his players. It doesn't matter who is, coordinating the midfield or not. It potentially could put anyone to so long as they follow that principle that he has, it could potentially put anyone in this thing. Now, KDB and the likes of them, the only difference they make is they're able to spot chances and, throw those balls to the right folks to, coordinate a defensive attack. So I don't think Newcastle stands a chance against a Pep's midfield. Now, where it's going to be one is actually how Newcastle responds to Pep's midfield, bombardment. If they choose to play the same style and try to kind of contend for the ball, they're going to lose. I think the secret is in their defense and the ability to throw long passes and depend on a fast Harvey Baines or any of their players on the flanks to be able to contain, the defense of City. That's the way they can win it. Yeah, it depends on how Newcastle responds to the midfield. They shouldn't try to kind of play the possession game. Well,
I think something I'll point out to you just to buttress what Gbenga is saying, right? Is I think back to the game they played against Arsenal last season, right? And in the first half, in fact, I think both games, Arsenal had control of the midfield, but Arsenal ended up losing both games. And I think it comes back to what you said, Charles, about Pep. Pep found ways, especially with adding Haaland. He's found ways to bypass the press. They did the same thing when they played Brighton as well, right? When they see that a team has a really good press or they are unable, they now have ways to go long and bypass, which was one of the things I think was so key for them winning the treble last season was Pep found a way to build a team that can do it all. They can counter-attack, they can high press, they can keep possession. Like there's so many options and so many tools and weapons that this City team has or had at least at that point. So it'll be interesting to see how that battle goes against Newcastle.
Just say one thing real quick. On the Arsenal games, I'll remember my like the Arsenal games. Those games are one you don't want to they're one on the bench.
Yeah.
Like
Okay. All right. So let's move on to the Spurs Man U game. All right. So Angie is new to the league. We've seen Harry Kane leave Spurs. We've seen James Madison come in. Right, and Spurs, supposedly have 100 million now to spend. We don't know what they're going to do for the rest of the season, but we haven't seen any new arrivals. How do we think that game is going to go against Ten Hag's Man U? Gbenga.
I don't. It's hard for me to kind of define sports identity without Kane, right?
Valid point.
It's yeah, it's hard. He's been the core of the team. He's been the one literally got most of the goals last season, right? He carries the entire team. So I'll be interested in seeing how the team evolves. I think Madison is a great addition to the team, but how does he pair with the likes of Son, right, and all of the top talent that are dependent on Kane to feed them the ball to be able to make things happen? Miami on the other side have an identity, right? This team has been playing together. They don't have any missing pieces. So I would give it to Manu, except Manu has a terrible day. And even with that, I think it's the worst case would be a draw, right?
Mm.
Because Manu, with the player coach coordination and the formation and the identity, it's pretty defined. Like look at when um, what do you call it? Ten Hag took over Man U. It took time, right, for him to
Yeah.
regain, reform the identity of the team, right, from what used to be, just all over the place. I think the same thing is going to happen to Spurs. So if they win tomorrow, sorry, this weekend, it's going to be an element of of luck or individual brilliance of certain players, not necessarily because um, they are super great or things like that.
Yeah. Charles, your thoughts on the game?
Uh, when statement, you just know that identity of Spurs without Kane because that's exactly how I managed their
Mm.
game last weekend and figure which is expected. They have a new coach, their star player is gone, so it's easy to give it to Man U because of the talent. Man, they have a manager who's been there for a minute now, about 2 seasons, if I'm not mistaken. Reshaped the team to the way you plug in players to make a system work. Hasn't had time to do that. So Spurs is already shaky because there's a new coach. A new coach and no one. So I don't know where it to Spurs. Mason is good. Son is gonna be Charlie one leading the line was on the line. I don't really trust him as much
Yeah.
to finish all the side. There's this that Spurs. Spurs is basically all now. I want to talk about this. I think they figured out the issues. Like I said, I watched the game and they're not there yet. So I I can easily give it a 2-0 win for Manchester
Interesting.
easily.
So my take on that game and what both of you said is correct, right? It's hard to look past a hurricane-less Spurs, right? It's hard to imagine what that team looks like. And I think I mentioned it the very last game they played, I forget who the opponent was, but the very last friendly they played before the
Brentford.
season started. Huh? Yeah, it was a
No, I
friendly
said Brentford,
before
but that
the
was last.
season started. Yeah,
Yeah.
before the season started. They didn't play Kane in that game, and I think that was to start to work on what it looks like without Kane. And if it wasn't for the fact that Kane has been in that team, when you look at the attack, it looks exciting. You have Son on the left, you have Kulusevski on the right, you have James Madison behind them, and you have Richarlison as the striker. Which I don't really see Richarlison as the striker, but Richarlison is the starting number 9 usually for Brazil. So when you look at all of that put together, it's like, okay, this is an exciting attack. And then we've heard about Angie's exploits as an attacking coach. and we look at what they tried to do in that first weekend, I want to say if Man U is not careful, because I think Man U's defense wasn't quite up to speed yet, this could end in a 2-2 draw. I'm expecting both teams to score by all means, but there just might be an element of surprise from Spurs.
I agree with your prediction. I think it's a 2-1 or 2-2. All right, 2-1 if Man U shows up, 2-2 if they're sloppy in the defense.
What do you guys think of Richarlison? What do you think of Richarlison as a striker? There was silence.
Yeah. It's to see. If it was a meetable team, not saying Richarlison, with all due respect, not saying Richarlison is a meetable, but when he was at Everton, we couldn't even, if he played the striker role, although he played along with Dominic, the striker only struggled with it. But for a coach hard to see, a team that's used to having a 20+ striker for years. See, but growing to the role, time will tell.
I guess the question is, how many goals do we see him scoring in the league?
I think that depends on who you have in the midfield and how he's able to interact with that
James
person.
Maddison is behind him.
For positional play. Yeah, like what's the synergy between them, right? So I see potential in Richarlison, but I don't think it's been paired with the right, crop of midfield players, right? It has good synergy with it. So it really depends. I'll be interested in seeing what this coach does with him. The fact that he's making him a front man shows that he sees a potential in him. I'll be interested in seeing that. Yeah. Of course, he won't be scoring all of the goals. I don't expect floodgate of goals like Ireland, but I see him converting a little bit, because for him it's about positional play, right? It's always off position and things like that, and I don't think that's because of him. It's because it's not correctly paired with the right midfielder, right? That knows when that ball should go to him.
Okay.
So
any final thoughts on the game?
I would say 12, right? Maybe.
I would say
right.
Below. You get to
wow. That's low. Wow. I think he can get 15 in that team. I think he can get 15 in that team.
Okay.
9 and below. I'm writing that down.
Here's the funny part. I actually listen, but I just think it's Kane's big to feel in the first season. That's what I'm trying to say. So his first season keeps going. Maybe he's performing, and they let him be the front man next season. But season after.
But 9 and below. Bro. 9 and below.
So that
Charles is not
9 is good.
36 games.
Maybe even as a winger, if you're getting 9 and below in this league, you're not good enough. Not to talk of striker. Anyway. All right, so let's move on to y'all's game. I've been waiting to hear y'all's opinion. West Ham versus Chelsea.
Best team in the world.
This game is coming up on Sunday. How are you all feeling? I know y'all are excited. First, give me your take on what you think the starting lineup looks like, especially now that you brought in your man Caicedo and the Lavia deal is about to be wrapped up. How do you think the starting 11 looks? And what are your thoughts on the West Ham game?
Gbenga, you take this one.
No, Charles, make it take out.
Our starting lineup. Nothing else. Huge. LFC. That's the most important. Fucking defense, the goalkeeper. I don't really care. Lavia, Caicedo. Set. We can beat anyone, including Pep. You understand? But
So do you think all three start? Do you think all three start?
The coach will be crazy not to start up. Why
No,
not?
he would have barely trained with the team by then. So I'll say maybe Enzo start, Fernandez start. Like
Okay.
maybe Gallagher may still
Okay.
play. No. But starting lineup, much friend from last weekend. Because that team just didn't finish as well. I'm just saying that Sterling doesn't start and Nott'm Madueke starts ahead of Sterling. Or no, you can Modric. Yeah, you may not get the goals, but to where offenders can be useful in someone else. So it'll be the same. Barring
I settle for Chukwuemeka.
Yeah, scored in the second half of last game. So it may be Gallagher because Gallagher was doing more
Interesting. Okay.
of the DM work the second half game. So Caicedo will just plug into that position. Gallagher swapping for Caicedo. I know Sterling is gonna want to start, but I think that's gonna be the team. Just Gallagher swapping.
So is Chukwuemeka the 10 now at Chelsea?
I thought Sterling played 10. No, Sterling played 10 at some point in that game. Right, I think in the first half, right?
I don't really know what's it in.
He played 10. Like it was literally, in that, central midfield role.
I think Sterling started on the right, and it was Gallagher, Chukwuemeka, and Enzo as a 4-3-3.
Yes.
I forget who was on the left.
Okay, I think well, it's second half. It kind of drifted.
Second half. Yeah, it was a 3-5-2 starting the game. You understand? With
yes.
And, but in the second half,
yes,
so that's when Sterling moved to the 10 position. He didn't do first half, but he stepped up in the second half. So Johnson was going to play 10. We don't know. Sterling under Lavia and Caicedo, and we can't really predict what it's going to look like. But expect Caicedo to start. Expect Lavia to start because they probably wrap up due tomorrow. I mean, we'll train one day before. Except the exception, then we shall see.
Yeah.
Predictions, goals. I expect Nicholas Jackson. I expect him, my boy. I expect him. Prediction, I'm predicting West Ham are still sorting out their team, so they're not ready yet.
I'll go with a 2-0 win as well. Because Charles said it.
Nice.
So y'all are just ganging up and banding up together. I get it.
We're aligned. Completely aligned. Formation. Goals.
Not 3-0, not 4-0.
2-0. We're okay with 2-0. That's not
2-0.
Yeah. We're not greedy. We're not greedy. Yeah, we'll start small.
You do not despise the days of little beginnings.
It's funny, and I think we'll come to it a bit later, but one thing that I was actually really looking forward to at the start of this season, like if I was going to talk about things I was looking forward to in the season, was who on earth starts in that Chelsea game. And so I think some news broke today, right, that Reece James is injured again.
Yeah.
How do you think that affects the back four, back five? I think Pochettino playing with the back three was a new thing for us. We've known Pochettino to usually play with the back four. How do you think that affects how the defense is structured? And was that back five just a counter specifically for Liverpool, or should we expect that from Pochettino going forward?
So
it's new for Paul. So it's new for Poch, like you said. We were able to answer that question after against West. It's still in one game.
Okay.
Was it only that's also another question to answer what it brings up against West? Final question of does that change the formation? Good. I trust Malo Gusto and do wing back. Let's see what Poch based on the training or whatever happens. It may change. I expect it to change because West Ham and Coach Reece is injured.
Okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if he used a back four against West Ham to be
So
conservative.
a 4-3-3, a 4-2-3-1.
I think it's potentially maybe like a 4-3-3.
Okay.
All right. I wouldn't be surprised just because of the Reece James injury. Because I don't know if they have thought about a replacement for Reece James, from a wing back perspective. I won't be surprised. But there's a possibility of, now that I'm thinking, like I was looking at the role that Gallagher played, like in the second half, like it became like more like a defensive midfielder. He had space as well. There might be a possibility of him just kind of saying, can I use him temporarily, maybe not necessarily for the full game, maybe at the start of the game to see how it plays out. If it doesn't work out, you could then, fall back to a back four, or may start with a back four. My thought. Like that's gonna be a weird case of using Gallagher in that position. But knowing how he really kind of stepped up to kind of play some kind of critical defensive midfielder role, and knowing that it also has space, it potentially could be an option. Not natural, but possibly.
Predicting when it comes to the formation, I'm predicting that it's a 3-5 he did against Liverpool, playing position
as the wing back. Okay.
Second half is going to bring in Lavia B3 with the midfield. Lavia, I said, that's what
I don't understand. 4-3-3, but Lavia in the midfield.
Lavia Fernandez middle. When he switches to
so I think he's saying like a 5-2-3 to start, right? And then it goes to a back four and switches to a 4-3-3.
So what will be a back four?
Exactly.
What will be a back four?
It could be
Disasi and Silva.
Gusto and Chilwell.
Interesting. Okay. That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so easy win. It doesn't really matter who plays 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, 5-3-2-5, whatever it is.
Then we'll collect. Doesn't matter.
Even
till they go away.
Play.
They will still collect.
Okay. So let's take that confidence that you all are feeling and let's review the top 6 predictions, because we looked at this last week, but you guys were in there. Let's start with Charles. Charles, what's
wait. In the first place, it was disrespectful to not include us in the beginning. That was very, very disrespectful.
There were reasons for that, and I think the final segment of today's agenda is to talk about Todd and Chelsea's transfer strategy. At the time when we hopped on for the recording and we were talking about the weekend, the news had just broken that Caicedo, there was a £110 million deal agreed between Liverpool and Brighton, and at that point, it seemed certain that Caicedo was going to Liverpool. And then we all know what happened about, 12 hours after that. And the rest, as they say, is history. So now, rather than Liverpool having Caicedo is now at Chelsea. and all of a sudden you guys are showing up in public places again. So let's talk
Wow.
about top six.
Wow. Is top six.
So Charles,
Yeah. Like I said, it's in particular order, but I feel like we should just arrange this thing in just
okay.
just to make it fair, because it's easy to pick 6 teams, but
So do
point
our
out,
media
make
folks
it fair.
have the order right, or do
Yes,
I need to tell
yes.
them to rearrange that?
No. You have
Okay.
my order right. Funny thing is, now this by putting so on, but as of I would flip Chelsea and City. It will be Chelsea as number one.
Ooh.
As a
Wow. Oh.
don't arrest me
I
yet.
mean, so even as a fan and as an analyst, you're looking at Chelsea finishing in the top 2.
Oh, definitely.
Top four. Let's not
Top.
too overextend it. So, but let me go back to my list. So, Chelsea,
Okay.
Man U, Liverpool. That's my top. See, Arsenal is not in
Okay.
the top 4, and as much
Okay.
I have a lot of Arsenal fan friends. You guys are Afro people. You guys are very bold to support Arsenal. 20 years out of the trophy. I think the challenge of the league will weigh down.
So,
I think you guys you've not been 1 or 8 years now. I don't think that team or this
yeah.
particular team understands what it's like. I don't think that's an idea how stressful that can be. So I think that's going to weigh on Arsenal. Now, they may surprise me and win the league. So that's why Arsenal is my top 4. Arsenal is in 5th ahead of Newcastle because they've bought more than I think I'm Arsenal. They already also have Champions League. That's an top 4. Because the likes of Liverpool like to play league and EPL, and Chelsea and Arsenal and Newcastle do not. This particular squad you guys have, they haven't. Man U, Liverpool, City have done it. An idea, the full team, some members of the team. So that's a summary of Arsenal in 5th and 6th. And why I have Man U, Liverpool. And of course, they have Pep, they have those players, the likes of Kaiser, and they have Poch.
They have £1 billion.
Yeah, exactly. Man U, and I think he's going for Liverpool. They have Klopp. So,
okay.
All right. My prediction, top 6 is City, Chelsea, Newcastle, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man U. I don't think Liverpool will make top 4. I think they're potentially going to have dressing room, chaos this season. If you're already having at the beginning of the season contention with your star player, that could easily poison the dressing room, right? And that with a full packed competition schedule, playing in the Champions League and also kind of
Liverpool is playing the Europa League.
Europa League, sorry. Yeah, sorry, playing the Europa League, and playing the Europa League and also. Yeah, and trying to kind of also kind of stay competitive in the Premier League with a dressing room, chaos. I think that's going to really kind of weigh down them. So that's why I put them at number 5. I think Arsenal will make top 4. I think Arsenal team is really evolving with time. I wouldn't be surprised if they make this far as well. I think they're evolving. The squad is maturing. I think your coach is doing a fantastic job. I think they're trying to replicate, what City is doing, and I feel like with a few changes in the team and with a few players that's been added to the team, they should be able to make top four, regardless of European competition that they might have. I think the worst case scenario is they wouldn't do well in the European competition, but they would make top four. Newcastle, I think, is a wild card in the entire
Hmm.
piece because I think the way they came out in the first game shows what they can bring to the table, right? And the fact that they have a deep pocket shows what's possible in mid-season in terms of reinforcing the team as needed. So
Yeah.
I think that's why I see them in the top four. Chelsea, of course, we have deep pocket, and we have a coach that's that knows the Premier League, that's been in the top four
Yeah.
before, right? And not having European competition would help us to focus on really kind of getting
Building.
into that top four space, but most likely being the second. Yes. That's my analysis. Man U, I'm still torn between Man U and Aston Villa in the sixth position. I think Man U is still mature. Yeah, Ten Hag is great, but I don't think you still have the squad depth, you know, to combine European competition with the league. So that's why I put them at sixth.
Okay. Very, very valid arguments. So let's talk about my top six. So I think the interesting thing to note is that we all have the same teams falling into the top six. And when I look at who the other possible contenders are, which are for me Villa and Brighton, I think they just maybe fall a little bit short. And the doubt for me in this top six, or who I think is likely to come sixth of this six, is Manchester United. As you called out, Gbenga, their squad I think is lacking just a little bit, especially in quality up front. They've bought Hodgland, but besides that, there hasn't really been any strong addition to their front line. Um, I think we saw the lineup they had last the beginning of last game. They had Rashford, Sancho, and Anthony. And when I look at that lineup, it's that front three is not a front three that strikes fear or like that I expect much from. And so when you combine that with European competition, right, the addition they have off the bench is I think Hojlund and Martial. When you combine Champions League, not just Europa or Conference League, when you combine having to play Champions League games against that squad, I think they're just maybe a little bit short. Um, City, I have to give the league to City at this point because we know what Pep and City have done over the last few years, and whether or not they sell players, it's just hard to look beyond them and beyond what Haaland is capable of. I know a couple of people were talking before the beginning of this league saying, "Oh, Haaland might not be able to do it again." He didn't score in the Community Shield, and they're like, that's a good indication. But then, season starts, and he pops two real quick. And I think what was scary for me, so I didn't pay attention to that. What was scarier for me was hearing Pep say Haaland is even fitter and sharper in preseason than he was last season. And that's a scary thought to have if you consider that someone who scored 50 plus goals last season has improved.
Sharper
So for those reasons, it's hard to look beyond City. Um, to Charles's point, I think Arsenal has a squad that is now better able to handle the rigors of both Champions League and the Premiership. And I say that because we've added key players. The injury to Timber is a bit sad because that was the final piece, I think, to make sure that we had quality backups in every position on the field. When I look at the front line, we have good, backups. I think Party staying was, massive critical for the midfield, even beyond the signing of Rice. Just having Party and having the option of being able to rotate, between Party, Jorginho, Kai, and Rice, I think is essential for that middle too. And then up front, there's quality. There are decent backups who have been in the league. If you take out Jesus, you have Trossard, you have the likes of Smith Rowe, you have Odegaard, you have Kai now who can play there, you have Saka. So I think the squad has enough quality that depending on who plays, it's not a massive drop off like it was last season. Last season, when Partey was injured, you went down to Jorginho, and beyond that, it was hard to see anything else. You had luckily Chaka was fit enough to play most of the season, but immediately Partey dropped. It took a couple of games to find that balance with Jorginho, and then we lost Saliba. Now if Saliba is injured, White can slot in there. There's Tomiyasu. Timber was available, depending on how long it takes Timber to come back. So there's enough quality backup where it's not that big of a drop. Liverpool, I'm scared for Liverpool because last weekend, just a week ago, and this is what makes it tricky with the transfer window being open. We had Caicedo confirmed going to Liverpool, and that changes the complexion of the Liverpool first 11. Without a Caicedo, they've gone in now and they've bought Wataru Endo. I personally don't know a lot about him. I think he's capable, but I don't think he's at the quality of Caicedo, especially a player who has been present in the league and done things in the league. Newcastle is looking scary. So for my top four, I would say I consider maybe City, Arsenal, Newcastle, and I have to put in Chelsea. When you buy Caicedo, with the amount you've spent, with the players that you've brought in,
You are disrespecting us by putting us on number
and
4.
the fact that so that's in no particular order. With the fact that you have Pochettino, I think it's hard to look beyond Chelsea for a top 4 position wherever Chelsea falls in that top 4. So for me, outside that top 4 is Liverpool and Manchester United at this point.
Fair.
Yeah.
Great.
Cool. All right. Any wild card? Who do you guys think might sneak in? One team that might sneak into the top 6.
Interestingly, I'm thinking Brighton.
Yeah, I have them on my
Charles?
happy food. Yeah, I don't want to. Yeah. I'm not a busy at all. I think it's a bit. It's just the guy. He's an arrogant trophy. If you know what I mean. Like, Pep Boy has a trophy to back it.
But he delivers.
Things he says in the last one when he said he has forgotten about. And I understand where it's coming from. He's trying to be bullish. He knows what he's doing. We own our players, but he needs to calm down. So I know I'm going over his. Is the answer. Just like I said, that's the people. Well, I don't want that to happen because of a lot of.
Okay. All right. Gbenga, is it Brighton for you as well? Or I guess you said Brighton. Charles, is it Brighton for you, or you have another team in mind I could sneak in?
Brighton.
For me, it's Villa. It's Aston Villa. Despite what they went through last week.
No. So, wait. In my analysis, I said between Man U and Villa, right? I think that's. Well, Villa has the potential, but you say wild card. I don't think Villa is a wild card. They have the form and courage to be able to get there. Between them and Man U is what I'm thinking. In the 6th position. But when you say wild card, someone we wouldn't ordinarily consider in the top 7 or top 6, that would be Brighton for me.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So I didn't consider, Aston Villa, if they make it, I won't be surprised because they have the bench. The one that I'm, really kind of focused on is who can just throw out surprise out of nowhere. I think it's potentially Brighton, at least for me from that perspective.
Okay. So let's talk about our last topic for the day, and that brings us again to Chelsea. What exactly is the transfer strategy, and how are you looking? We look at the squad, and the fact is, whether you accept it or you say it out or not, Chelsea have spent over $1 billion since Todd Boehly and clearly capital took over at Chelsea.
So what? We spent. So what? We have the money and we spend it. We spent it.
The fact is, it's a complete turnover of the squad. When I look at your squad now, and I look at the squad that won, last time we won Champions League against City, who remains? There's almost nobody. So what is the thinking behind the entire refresh of the squad?
It's simple. Okay.
Okay.
I have money to buy a car. We want to do a car race, right?
Yes.
If I have money to buy, and I'm not thinking of a Bentley, for instance, I buy the Bentley. If you
Exactly.
like, buy Toyota. So whatever. We have the money to spend, and we are not going against the rules. So we're fairly competing with the deep pockets that we have. We're not denying that we don't have deep pockets. We have it, right? The key piece is that are we breaking any rules? No, sir.
Nope.
Are we doing this legally?
Are you
Yes,
sure?
sir.
I don't know that
Are we being
FFP has
fair?
reviewed you guys yet.
Let them go and review it.
So
It's okay. But we're
Today,
doing it fairly.
it's maybe too
Are we,
early to
are we being
say that
fair?
everything is legal until your
It is
books have
legal.
been reviewed.
Let them review our books. They're not going to find shishi. No evidence.
let me say something real quick.
Yeah.
You made a statement. We spent $1 billion. Your next question was, what is Chelsea's strategy? Let me turn to you. What do you think Chelsea's strategy is?
I didn't think it is. Yes.
It's hard to say because I pulled up the transfer so far, and I think some are even missing. I don't
No,
see.
that was not what you said pre-recording. So whatever you said pre-recording, say it here.
No, so that was a joke, which was Todd is basically looking to see who the top 4, top 6 contenders are buying. And when he sees that they're going for those players, he pretty much picks them up, right? So I was talking about Caicedo. That was a joke anyway about Caicedo and Lavia.
No. Let's even assume that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with it?
Is that the strategy? That's my question for you. You guys are
No.
you're the Chelsea
No,
fans.
you tell me.
If you ask me
assume.
what Arsenal's strategy is, based on me looking outside and being a follower of Arsenal, I can explain to you, or at least try to explain what I think Arsenal is doing. So my question to you, being Chelsea fans and seeing what your club is doing, what do you think is going on with your club?
I think we have good and smart, what do you call it, scouts. That's it. We have good and great scouts, right? But if your argument, let's assume your argument around, or the fact that we go after, players that the top talents go to. Have you been to an auction before?
I have not been to an auction.
No. Okay, all right. But I assume you know what an auction is.
Yes.
What happens? It goes to the best bidder, right? The highest bidder. I can go to an auction. I don't know how to buy cars. Let's say cars, right?
Mm-hmm.
I see a dealer who knows how to buy cars. The smart thing for me to do is what? Follow the dealer and pay more than the dealer. The leader wants to buy to sell. I want to buy to use. If he pays 200, I pay 250. It's a smart strategy.
So is
right?
that to stay?
Even if that argument is true. No, I'm not saying it's the case, but even if it is still a smart strategy. If you say we don't have great scouts, we know those who have great scouts. Yeah, City has great scouts. Arsenal has great scouts. So what are they going for? We'll beat them because it's an auction market, right? That's what it is. So there's nothing wrong about that, so long as we're not breaking any rules.
Okay.
Charles, what do you think?
So
again, it's questionable that you're not breaking rules yet, but until an audit happens,
okay,
we don't know.
Charles.
Charles.
I agree with Gbenga on the issue of you follow who has been in the game, who you believe knows better than you. And it's a good thing you don't know everything. And follow the midst of those who are more experienced than you don't know. And follow their lead. That is the strategy. It's a great strategy. It is. Because I'm even bigger on. So you guys keep talking about strategy of following wants to buy follow. That's not the big issue to me. The biggest issue, which is not an issue, the biggest thing is how exactly are we convincing this us? because he bid for Caicedo.
Yeah,
It's the same thing.
that's a good point.
And Caicedo, I want Chelsea. Yeah, Liverpool bid for him. Lavia came up publicly and said, I want Chelsea. Exactly. He's
And the funny
attracting.
thing is that we're not in any European competition, right? So there's no compelling reason for them to come join us.
So the point I'm trying to land on
So
is
what's
instead of what I'm trying to land on is
what's the story then? Mm-hmm.
instead of you looking at our strategy or assuming our strategy and making a joke out of it, we are doing to convince this guy.
I'm literally asking. I'm asking you guys. Do you know what the strategy is?
We can't give away
No, let me give him a tip. We did put something for Mark, talk to them.
I'm here because maybe this is something I can apply in business or in my daily work. This art of convincing that Todd Boehly and you guys seem to have mastered. Because the other part is not only are we seeing these huge transfers, we're seeing these players signed to long-term contracts. 8-year contracts, 7-year contracts, and the question is, what? As Charles said, what are you telling these players?
We're selling the vision to them. We're selling to them the big picture. You guys are not saying it. We're selling to them. In the next 1-2 years, we become the city. We're winning all of the leagues, winning all of the competitions. That's what we're selling to them. We're saying, look at it. We got deep pocket to back this up. You just look beyond now, see what's possible. Why do you think they're signing 10 years? Right? We're giving them a guaranteed future with great trophies, set of trophies to come with it. That's the vision. Ask me, what is your coach selling? I know, let me know now. Every time that it's bought into their Twitter vision. That's what we're doing. It's just not the coach, it's Todd's vision here. We're doing it right.
Bigger than better.
Okay. So it's about Todd's vision and the deep pockets. All right. So you see, yeah, okay. I hear the strategy. Guaranteed trophies, large pockets to back it up. Okay. I can accept that. I can take that. All right. Final thoughts. Any quick takeaways for the weekend, for the season?
Quick takeaways from last week. Season just started, and I think it'll be a very, very interesting season. I'll throw one down. Pep.
That's bold.
That's bold.
I actually think otherwise.
Yeah.
That it's going to win the league by a lot of margin.
Wow.
I'm afraid.
You guys are not aligned there.
Well, this is one area that we potentially. I'm afraid
So I mean, I've been thinking he would win it. It's meant to wrap this episode off and saying
Okay, we'll take that from you, Charles. Gbenga, why do you think Pep can win this by country mile?
I'm afraid of the Pep using 2-man attack, like 2 front men that are potent and dangerous, combined with a solid midfield. Gosh, it's going to tear most teams apart. And you could tell, from the beginning. I'm afraid of what a better fit Ireland is going to do this season. If he wasn't fit enough, he scored 50 goals. I don't know how many goals he's going to score this time around, right? And that's what I'm afraid of. Like, it's literally, they're going to walk over a lot of things. But, and City doesn't have an history of having a very good start to the season. Right? I don't foresee that scenario this year. I don't foresee that scenario this year. Right, you can tell, from the first game alone. So I think for me, that's people should watch out for that. Right, that's why I'm really looking forward to what Newcastle could do.
Can do against this team.
Yeah, against this team. If it's a complete stomping of Newcastle, everybody should be afraid because everybody go collect.
All right, awesome. Always great chatting with you guys. As always, looking forward to next week. Till then, thanks everyone for tuning in. Take care.
Right.